What's going on, everybody, man? It's Zuko, and today we are going to be showing you guys how to play Gley. Now, Gley is a very strong character, but in order to kind of get that power out of her, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be able to read, because a lot of things won't make sense if you don't actually understand what the game's requiring of you in order to like unlock this hidden power in her kit. So to kind of just go over the simple stuff immediately, what you're going to need from your reactor core is you're going to need to make sure that you have some sort of non-attribute, and then you have on dimension. That's going to give you your most bang for your buck. That's what you're going to want to play off of. So you need to make sure you have in your skill power boost ratio non-dimension, and then non-attribute, and then dimension. And then as your little perks here, you can either go for a skill cooldown, skill effect range. It is what it is. That doesn't matter, but skill cooldown does matter. You want to go for max MP. As you can see, max MP. Defense is also good. That's double the defense there. And then max HP. I said HP, because she doesn't have any shields or any of that. It's all just straight up max HP. So it actually is better when it's like that, because you really would be able to, it's easier for you to know if you got a good roll, right? um so yeah, everything is just based off of completely max HP. So I am very, very, deadly with this character due to that. So again, the more skill cooldowns that you can get, the more max HPs that you can get. That's kind of what you're looking for. Those are the two that you're really working for. Also, skill duration, that's also going to be in your favor as well. If you can find anything for those, that's what you're looking for. So the next thing that's really, really important is you need to make sure that you have weapons that are really good as well, because that actually determines the power. She's a character where she actually has a double kind of like damage dealer in a format we'll talk about in a little bit longer, in a little bit of a minute here. But you need to make sure you have good weapons here, because they're going to make your kit. Same thing here with your modules. So let's go ahead and get straight into actually like what you should be looking for and how you play this character. Let's start off, with the sort of mathematical side first, and then we'll get into the visual representation in a moment. So the first thing that you need to know is, as you can see, this is kind of what you're looking for with the character. You can kind of get an idea of what you're going to be needing. You're going to be HP heal, max HP, skill power modifier, this chill skill power, that doesn't matter, but skill duration and skill cooldown. Those are the things that you're going to want to have, because this will determine how good your character can get. And as you can see, I haven't used an activator for her yet. I just don't think it's worth it for right now, until I see some more legendary perks on my Descendant slots. Once I get those, then we'll kind of go with that as we can. But let's go ahead and get straight into it. So the first thing I want you to notice is that Gley is not a character where she's simple. You actually have to play both, and this is the reason why a lot of people are like, oh, she's trash, she's not good, she's not S tier anymore. No, she's actually busted as heck, as she's always been. You just were used to her being easy. Now she requires for you to think a little bit and actually optimize and actually read. So let's get straight into it. So the first thing I want you to know is her passive skill. It's called Thirst. Again, it's a non-attribute skill, which means that's basically what that means. You cannot have shield or MP, which means you don't care about MP regeneration, MP recovery, MP orbs. None of that does anything. All of your everything comes from you killing people and HP. That's it. Which means if you can't kill people, you can't heal yourself. Unless you see like health, like orbs on the ground. That's the only ways you will ever, be able to keep yourself alive. So you have to kill people, you have to frag, and then you have to kill enough people to get HP orbs, or you have to kill enough people to get life spheres. So in non-frenzy state, it reduces incoming damage, which means now you have modes. We'll talk about this in a bit. And then life spheres, which upon contact, you'll be granted basically health recovery, right? The health recovery amount is going to be 4%. So that's pretty good. And that's pretty much it. So cool deal. Now let's go ahead and talk here about this. So whenever you're using Gley, you need to understand that she's basically like a Lucio. She has two different modes. One's more attack based, one's more defense based. You need to understand that when you click your frenzied, if you sit in frenzy 24 time, you are literally halving all of the heals that you get, which means if there's a life sphere on the ground and it's supposed to give you four, for example, as you see here, it's supposed to give you four, it's going to give you two now. 2% for a life sphere. That's not good, right? Even 4% is not that good. But then now you're looking at as well, your damage is that you receive is increased by 10%, which means you take more damage by 10%. That is a huge deal, which means you don't want to just sit in this. And this is the biggest thing I see a lot of people who say, like they know how to play Gley. They're just sitting in frenzied the whole time. This is very dangerous. It costs a lot of HP, right? But it is what it is. Um, you don't want to just sit in frenzy. All you're getting from this firearm attack increase amount plus 15, explosive attack increase amount plus 15, and then that firearm penetration, which is really important, plus 50, the basic 51. So that penetration is what you're really looking for. It basically means you get to kind of like get through that armor a little bit better, and things kind of get to phase through. Like for example, I'm going a little bit too fast. We'll talk about that in a bit. But that's pretty much it. You just get increased attack and penetration, but you are basically very, very glass cannon now. So moving on to try to double down on you have two different modes. One's attack and one's defense. Notice how it says here for life siphon, this is dimension as well. It deals damage to targets within range and recovers HP. HP recovery amount is increased based on the number of enemies hit, which means no matter how many enemies, there's no limit. If you hit 10 enemies, you get 50%. I'm sorry. Yeah, you get 50% of your health back. If there's 20 enemies around you, you get all of your health back, which means you need to look at how many enemies are around you. This is a very good ability to kind of like explode when you're in a sticky situation. But the only problem is if there's only one boss that you're fighting, you're only going to get 5% from this, which is where she's kind of nerfed at, right? So I wish I would like say a thing where it's like if you would hold down the ability, it'll basically go from like everyone mode to just one person mode. That way you can cycle between the two, because I think that's her only weakness, but it's not really a weakness because of what we see right under it, which is non-frenzied, which means it doesn't matter how many enemies you hit, right? At this point, all you got to do is hit 10, because damage decrease basically means that lowers how much damage you actually take, not how much damage that you do, because I've tested it already and you do not get any decrease in the damage you do with your gun or your skills. It's only in the damage that you take, which means this is buffing your defense. And the cool thing about it is, notice it says the duration is 15 seconds, but the cooldown is 11 seconds. So what does this mean? It costs you 3 power of life to proc this, which means if you can get 3 power of life every 15 seconds, you can always have an extremely good amount of damage that you take being decreased, which means if you get max stacks, if you proc this near 10 mobs, you just got 20 damage decrease, which means incoming damage that you take, it's minus 20%. You basically become a tank. This is how you keep yourself alive. So whenever I pop life siphon, I never ever pop it in the aggressive mode. I only pop it in the non-frenzied version, because again, it does not lower your DPS. I don't know why they worded it like that, but I've tested it. It does not lower your DPS at all. But if you pop this in frenzy, it's going to do more damage, right? But that's cool or whatever. That doesn't really matter. And then per 10% of HP that you have already consumed, it's going to basically boost that damage, which means if you're at like the lowest health possible and you pop this ability, it's going to basically add 100% of that damage, right? Or 90% of that damage on top of whatever your skill power already is. So again, that's a huge boost. And if it was like multiplicative, then that would be busted, but it's additive, so it's just good, right? And then now you're looking at skill effect, and as you can see, the damage radius, things of that sort. It's not really that important, but just know that it does give you MP. It's basically, like it says, it's a life siphon. I never use the offensive version because the damage on it to me isn't that crazy. But like I just do it like literally just to be able to get the the stacks of vigor, because if you kill enemies anyway, then like you're going to get all of those life spheres right back. So I just don't think it's that important. And the good thing about her is that you start to become, the more you get max HP, it's always based off of the percentage of your max HP. So if your max HP is, let's say you max this all the way out, right? As you can see, I'm plus 41%. This can go exponentially all the way up, which means 2% might actually become, and again, as you start stacking more of your life. So again, people are saying, oh, she's squishy, she no, build your build right, because you can increase this max HP to be that much more, and then you can have your actual components that are building max HP on top of having actual little legendary perks in that as what that build max HP. And now you're looking at all of that max HP because you're now soloing just that stat, which means you get to focus on it much more, which means that number becomes so much greater than the other person that you're going against. That 2% or 4% might be like 6 bullets from a very high level mob, which means you're extremely tanky on top of having vigor as well. So again, if you're struggling to survive, you need to get this on your build, and you need to upgrade this as much as you possibly can, because this is how you survive. This is busted with her. So again, you need to be able to make sure that you are being mindful of your actual max HP, because again, every single time you get one of those life spheres, you get more health back. And then here, if you want to use the offensive version, it does give you that as well, but I don't ever use the offensive version. I don't think it's that good. If you're not going to use it to kill everything in that moment right there, then do not use it at all. I personally always run off of the cooldown of the non-frenzied version because I just like that much more. You can do it all the time. Now we have the next one, which is increased sensory. So this one also has 2 modes. So far every single mode has 2 different modes. So for example, when you pop this, you basically take extra 10% damage. When you take it off, you take 4% less damage. So again, you either want to take 10% more damage or you want to take 4% less damage. That's the different modes of this. And this one also gives you a little bit more attack, whenever you take the 10% more. But with this one, when you're in offensive mode and you pop it, you don't use any ammo for whatever weapon you have equipped for the next 5 seconds. But again, if you put duration on it, now as you can see, it's now 7 seconds, which means that's a very, very good skill. And if you stack cooldown on top of that, it went from 40 to now 22, which means this cooldown just got cut in half. That's really, really, really good. Now notice how it's also, whenever you're in aggressive mode, you're basically losing movement speed and all that stuff, movement while you're aiming, but that doesn't really matter. But if you do it whenever you're in defensive mode, you get a boost to all of your speed. You get a boost to also even your life sphere generation rate. It basically doubles that. And same thing with your health recovery amount. It basically doubles that as well. So it went from 4 to 8, and then for your life sphere, it went from 30 to 60. And it lasts for 13.9 seconds, which means if you're in a fight where you have a weapon that's just absolutely dominating, you don't ever have to use your maximized lethality, because it's simply going to just, like, if you know that you can get your Z every single time, and 3 of those bullets you can just use it to, like, nuke a boss or nuke this mob or whatever, then you don't have to use it. You can constantly be in maximized recovery and just move really fast and heal really, really fast, and you generate spheres even faster, which means you're constantly able to go in and out, and you can actually play off of maximized recovery alone, because again, your sphere generation rate is now 60 and that cooldown is 13 seconds. And then it literally starts the moment that you hit it. So it's really like you only have like about a 7-second, like for real cooldown. But so that basically means you get to constantly generate life spheres, and life spheres is something that you need in order to make sure that you're able to, like, constantly be able to use your Z, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, or constantly being able to use this, your vigor, so that way you can keep yourself, like, updated. You can keep yourself, healthy. So again, if you're dying a lot or if you're losing health a lot, it's probably because you're just sitting in frenzy. The game literally gives you multiple ways to kind of keep yourself alive. So let's go ahead and talk about the next one, which is Massacre. This is your moneymaker. This is how you get your bread. Now, a lot of people have said they nerfed her, she's not good anymore. No, they didn't change anything about it. You just didn't read. Um, Equip your unique weapon. I want you to think of this as its own legendary weapon. That is just like a fourth weapon. I want you to think of it as that, and it has very specific things that it does. And notice how it says, um, the number of bullets loaded is affected by the amount of power of life owned, which means if you have 10 power of life, you're going to get 10 ammo counts of whatever that bullet is. Now, that's pretty cool because that means now you can play her multiple different ways. We'll talk about that in a bit. But whenever hitting an enemy with the unique weapon, it deals damage and inflicts additional effects, right? Now, notice what it says. When you're hitting an enemy with the unique weapon, it deals damage and inflicts additional effects. You might be saying, well, what does that mean? We obviously know that it deals damage, but what do you mean that it deals damage? And what do you mean it inflicts additional effects? Well, if you look right to the right, it tells you when you pull this out, it's an exclusive weapon. So that's basically the unique weapon. The damage that it does, check this out, it deals damage, right? The damage that it does is the same as the equipped weapon, which means whatever weapon that you have equipped, when you press that button, it's going to take that fire rate of that weapon, it's going to take the attack of that weapon, it's going to take the perks of that weapon, it's going to take the modules of that weapon, it's going to take every single thing of that weapon that you have equipped and put it on this unique weapon. So again, it's like it's its own weapon that basically take all of the stats of your weapon and then it boosts that weapon. So basically think of it like I'm boosting whatever weapon that I have to be better. Literally. Now, what does it mean when it says and inflicts additional effects? So what are the additional effects? Well, if you pop it in frenzy, again, your damage dealing mode, now your skill power is adding additional damage to it, and on top of that, the lower that your health is, you get another 100%. So what does this mean? This means the lower your health is, and if you're in frenzied, when you pop that Z button, that means now this ability now does, instead of it right now it's doing 68, but when you put the skill power upgrade on it, and now it's doing 100% more damage. And then if you have lower health, it's now going to do 200% more damage, because every 10% that you lose of your life, you're going to get that 10% back in the skill power, which means you're basically adding 90%, because it's really hard to get it to 100. So you pretty much only get 90%. Now, if you're doing it in the non-frenzied version, it's basically going to make it to where every single bullet that you do stuns an enemy. So CC. Now, I want you guys to understand that is busted. The reason why this is busted is because you can genuinely CC the heck out of a boss by not using the frenzied version. Yes, you're going to get a lot more damage by doing frenzy, but if you want to make sure a boss can't move and they just stand there and eat, I'll go ahead and we'll talk about it. So basically, just know non-frenzied version is basically CC. Frenzied version is straight up DPS. You need to be able to differentiate between the two. And again, same thing up there. You only need 3 power of life to do this. I say my current playstyle is you can either play off of only using this one here for maximized recovery, so that way you don't use the lethality and you just kind of burn your ammo because you have weapons or whatever. That's one way to play it. Another way to play it is to that way you use your maximized lethality, but you only use it for the weapon that you have equipped, which means you don't use your Z before you use your V here, increase sensory. And this allows for you to again spray around and use whatever weapon. Let's say it's a launcher or whatever it is that you're using, a shotgun that does really good DPS but it has low ammo count, and you just spray around with that for 7 seconds or whatever, right? Cool. You use your maximized lethality. After you do that, you can run around, pick up the orbs, and then pop this, and now this is going to last for as many bullets as you have, which means if you have if you have 10 bullets, then you'll have 10 rounds of that, and you can go crazy with that. And then depending on what weapon you have equipped with it, or whatever weapon you switch to, that'll determine how long that lasts. By the time that's over with, you can just go right back into using another maximized lethality, and you can reverse between those two as such. But the problem with that is you would have to make sure that you're killing a lot. So that's one way to play it. Another way to play it is you pop Massacre first, and then you pop this, and now this ability now gets 7 seconds, because of my duration being increased, of whatever weapon you have equipped not costing you any ammo, on top of it either stunning or doing additional damage based off of your health, on top of it just being simply boosted, which means you just upgraded that weapon. to do either CC damage or non-CC damage. And again, this cooldown is literally none. You don't have a cooldown, which means as long as you can get 3 power of life, you literally get this ability. The only problem that you have with her is that it's really hard to get power of life, because in order for you to get power of life, you kind of have to kill, right? The spawn rate is 30%. So again, defeating enemies has a chance to drop spheres. The only problem is, can't defeat an enemy. If you're going against a boss, you don't really drop spheres, which means you're kind of somewhat gated based on how many enemies are around you. So you don't really want to like kind of be a person where you don't kill mobs. You need to kill mobs because you need to get those life spheres, because they determine if you can keep proccing these abilities or not. So yeah, the good thing is you don't need anything in order to do this one, so you never have any downtime. That's why I say it's probably best to do one of the other as far as an optimization wise, but using these two together does work really well as well. Now, since we've talked about all of our skills, let's talk about why I have this set up the way that I do. This chill power doesn't matter. So skill cooldown, you want that as low as possible, so that way you can cycle between this as much as you possibly can, right? And then skill power modifier, that's basically just boosting your damage, right? You kind of want that. That's your whole sort of shebang. You need to be able to do more damage. That buffs this ability, that buffs this ability. It's literally DPS. Same thing here, skill cooldown and then max HP. This is one of those that you have to have. The more you get to upgrade this, the better it is going to be for you as a character. This is how you help yourself out. And remember, max HP percentage is now being increased by plus 23%, which means you stack this on top of perks, on top of this. Now you're becoming extremely, extremely tanky, because your HP is like as if it's constantly being like added by a percentage, which means whatever that raw percentage is, it's taking that number and is boosting it again. So that's very, very strong. On top of it, also giving you a skill cooldown. And then skill duration, that's very, very important, because as well as you want to kind of be able to make sure you can shoot in this mode for as long as possible whenever it comes to this, right? So again, as you can see, this is increasing this duration, but same thing here. That means this duration is now increased because you're increasing your duration. So it's really affecting too, even though it may not look like it. And it doesn't really affect this that much outside of how long that non-frenzied lasts. And this is actually really important, because the longer that you can keep Vigor up, the more you can kind of constantly like play off of that. So again, more safety. So I would say always have that skill extension up, and I'm actually going to max this out as well. Again, max this out for the skill cooldown, max this out for the skill duration, so that way it can last a little bit longer. The more I can do this, I am going to upgrade this for sure. And then HP heal, that's just boosting whenever you get HP orbs, life spheres. It's boosting how much that gives you on top of whatever it already was. So that's basically that. So this is my current build. Now since I've showed you all of that, I want you to also pay attention to your weapons, which means your perks that you see in your weapon, it's going to take that of that weapon. The perks that you see here in your fire rate and your firearm attack, it's taking all of that and your modules and your perks, and it's putting that on the unique weapon. So again, if this says it's doing electric attack, well, guess what? That weapon can now do electric attack, and it's going to do 3,000 of that on top of everything else that it's doing, which means crit rate, critical hit damage, it's taking all of that from that weapon. So now, since we've talked about all of that, let's go ahead and do a showcase really quickly. So we'll go ahead and make it, because I can genuinely explode everything. Let's just go ahead and put a max health, and right now I am currently level 32 on this build, but the weapons I'm using is around 50 or whatever. So basically I'm half of this gear level wise, and then character wise I'm losing a good bit of DPS, about 20%. So I'm basically like almost 70 levels under leveled right now, pretty much. So not 70, about 60 something. So pretty under leveled, right? So you should look at this and be like, if you are able to do good DPS here, then you know that you're doing some serious good DPS. So the first thing is, again, if you are outside of this mode, you take 4% less damage. As you can see, it's taking all of my crit rate and everything that I have on this weapon. So for example, as you can see here, crit rate, all of that. As you can see, firearm critical hit rate 24%, critical hit damage 36, rounds per magazine plus 8, reload, firearm attack, repoint damage. All of that is being applied to this weapon. The moment I do this, it just gives me a flat out damage boost, right? So again, as you can see, look at the amount of damage that I'm doing, and I am very, very under leveled, right? And this is me, single tapping. If I just actually let this thing fly, as you can see, this is melting the heck out of people, right? So very cool ability. Now, same thing here. If I pick up this orb, notice how it gave me a lot much more, right? But notice how if I go ahead and kill another one here really quick, hopefully I can get an orb from him. Just do this really quick.
It's my power.
I'll just do this really quick, just for the sake of like whatever. I'm just trying to see if one will drop an orb. It doesn't seem like they will. All right, we'll do this as well. This will help it to make sure that we drop an orb. Again, you can kind of play off of this alone. I'll just kind of like show you here. Matter of fact, let's just do it like this. Let's lower them just for the sake of like the orb regeneration. Let's just put it on 60. So basically I'm underleveled by like 10 or something of that sort. And then we'll just pop this, and this gives me basically generation boost, right? So that orb generation is going to take effect no matter what, and that speed is going to take effect no matter what. So again, you become basically a tank that just moves much faster, right? And as you can see, those orbs come in pretty quickly. Now, again, if you are in Frenzy, those orbs give you now 2% instead of 4%. So again, not that great. So again, if you're going to pick up an orb, you can just cycle in and out of it if you want, but it's not going to give you that much because you're going to lose 10% of your life every time you proc this, right? So it doesn't matter that much, but just know that it is something that you might want to, pay attention to. So again, cool. So you pop one of these. As you can see, you get more from that. Cool. So that's basically what this is doing whenever you press your Q. It's giving you more DPS, and if you're out of it, you're basically able to kind of stay alive a lot longer. You get 4% damage reduction, and if you're in this, you're taking 10% more damage. That's a huge difference, right? And you also lose 10% of your life. So basically, you pop this at the bad time, and you can kind of almost die for it if you're not, being, aware of that. And same thing here with your C. Just kind of showcase this really quick here for you. Bear with me one moment. So again, with your C, let's say you're here, and you pop this in front of everyone. It's going to do Vigor stack. So now this Vigor, see how long this lasts? I'm doing this, I'm firing. I can even go into this, and then it just only matters like what you do in that first part, right? So again, I'm firing. Cool. Get out of it, pop it again, get them all back, go back into this, and then now, as you can see, I'm able to keep this kind of going here, right? So as you can see, that stack lasts forever, and the more stacks that you get, the better off you are going to be, right? So again, you can legit do this over and over again, and now you see why I say you are a tank. You legit can do whatever you want, genuinely whatever you want. Now let's talk about, again, this one here. So let's say you pop this, right, and then you touch this, and then you let's say you touch this, and then you go ahead and touch this. Now you're looking at, you've been able to move a lot faster, while you're also taking a lot less damage, and you're also having more shield regeneration. I mean, more life sphere regeneration, which means now you can explode people much faster, right? And by the time that skill is done, you can do this, then pop it again, right? Give it right back. And again, the more enemies that are in the area, you just kind of aiming for 10, but it doesn't really matter that much. The more enemies you have, the better off you're going to be. So cool, though. That's basically those skills kind of like in work there. So next thing up that we're going to talk about here is your cycle between your V and your Z. So what you can do is you can do something like this. You see how I have, life spheres or whatever? Let's say you want to go ahead and kind of go crazy. First thing you want to do is you want to pop your Q for your frenzy. You're going to pop V. is going to give you 7 seconds of me just kind of playing around with this, right? As you see, I didn't use a single bullet. Then you're going to press your Z right after that, and this allows for you to basically get that same weapon for that same amount of time, right? And then by the time that cooldown is finished, you're going to be able to go right back into your V again to be able to immediately go over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? So now the cool thing about this is the more mobs that you're able to kill while you're doing this, the more likely you are to get those life spheres back up, which means you are able to cycle in and out of those two really easily, and it's very effective. And the cool thing about it is you can also constantly stay inside of whatchamacallit. So let's actually go ahead and max this back out here. You can constantly stay inside of your rotation. So let's say you pop this here, as you can see, extremely good DPS, right? So I'm under leveled by at least, you know, 60 levels, and look at that DPS. I actually, you know, use my ammo there, you know, but then let's say I use this here, get these ammo thingies here. So yeah, and as you can see, you get this back here, and then now you're able to keep kind of going in and out of this sort of rotation here. And again, as you get these life spheres, again, it's kind of harder to show because it's only, you know, 9 mobs there, but as you can see, like, you're able to genuinely cycle between those two, and that's a very effective way to make sure you're like kind of you have 2 of the same weapon basically, right? And one just gives you more DPS. So you can do that sort of rotation there, and that makes you very good at making sure you're constantly doing a lot of DPS. So for example, let's say you want to do it this way, right? And you want to use it with a weapon that's a little bit more how can I say it, a little bit more your speed. So again, let's say you pop this and then you pop your V, and now the fire rate, notice how it increases, right? And you're not using any of that ammo, right? Even though I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing this, use all of that ammo, whatever, right? And then now you pop your V, and now you get 10 bullets of this. So again, that uses a lot more of that ammunition, which means if you're going to do this, you need to make sure that those 10 rounds really like give you something, right? So for example, if you do this with the sniper rifle, it might make a little bit more sense to use it as a sniper rifle, because then you can pick someone off and then maybe I'll just use it with the scout rifle. So again, let's say you use your Z here on your scout rifle. Now you get 10 bullets of this, right? And that fire rate, which means you just got 10 free ammo, which means, let's say now you go ahead and switch this to an actual sniper rifle here, and then you are now able to basically cycle between this like so, where you pop this, right? And you're able to do this, right? Right, and let's say you don't want to use that ammo anymore, so now you pop your Z, and now you again get 10 of those shots, right? And more DPS now. And again, as you can see, it's phasing through those mobs, right? As you can see, right? And by the time that's finished, you just get it right back, as you can see. So like, this is the reason why I say like she's very effective, you know. If you want to basically like find a way to make it to where you don't have to waste ammo, and again, pair this with an Enzo, and you're talking extremely good DPS, right? And the cool thing about it is you can kind of run this however you want to run it. Like, it doesn't always have to be like a set specific way. You can use this however you genuinely want to use it. Just know, depending on how you're using it, it's going to determine what you're doing. I like using weapons with higher fire rates because I just feel like it gives me a little bit more bang for my buck. So again, let's say I pop my Z and then I pop my V here. Now my pistol shoots very fast, right? And it does a lot of damage, right? And as you can see, you can kind of, you know, empty all of that mag there, and by the time that's finished, look, you're already back into where you want to be at, right? So you use all of your life spheres, so you have to kind of, you know, explode a little bit after that, and that's cool, right? The only thing about your Z is that if you pick up an orb while you're in your Z, you don't get it. So don't pick up orbs while you're in your Z. You're literally just trying to explode at that point. So yeah, that's pretty much that. One thing you could also do is you can kind of do this, to get maximum shield generation, then you can do this, and then you can use that like that, right? And this could be a way to kind of, you know, give yourself some good orb regeneration. Or if you want to do it like this, let's say if you have Maximus X, you can proc your Z, and then you can go ahead and proc this, and then you can go ahead and proc this, and then now you got, you know, some higher damage bullets, and you basically just got 10 rounds of that big boy there. And that's very, very effective, right? So again, you're able to kind of choose how you want to play with the character, and that's where it becomes the most effective. But another thing you can also do, I know there's a lot and I'm doing a lot here, but you can also just straight up do like this. You can straight up have this weapon equipped and then just press your Z, and then you basically have these rounds doing as much damage as that one would do. And now after you use that, you can do it like this, and now you have, again, 10 rounds of the exact same thing doing all of that. So let's say you use all of that, you get out of it, you want to use, you know, pick up these spheres, right? Let's say you had more than enough in order to get 3 back, and then you cycle right back into your Z. The moment you get 3, you do it all over again. The more spheres you get, the more you can cycle in and out of that sort of rotation there. And that's another way to do it. So again, you can genuinely do whatever you want, like, and the more skills that you have, the better off you can use it. So she's kind of like a double, like, sort of kill, because you get to do damage with your weapon, and then you get to basically double down on said weapon. So let's say you hop in here and you're like, well, look, like, I really like you know, this slot, so I'm gonna go ahead and max capacity up, and I'm gonna make it to where I can get the most amount of, like, whatever that I possibly can. And again, as your proficiency increases with the weapon, the more modules you can put on that weapon. So that's basically what that's doing. So while you're doing all of that, you basically are using all of those stats on top of all of the stats of your Descendant, actually, you know, helping you out as well, on top of the actual skill power modifier going up as well. And if you can get even more of these with another max capacity up, you're looking at some extremely deadly DPS. So with all of that being said, that is genuinely my guide for you guys. Basically, you can explode the heck out of everyone. It will take the fire rate and the attack, whatever weapon you're using. You can kind of go in and play very, very tanky. I'm going to show you guys all of this in play. Izuko, signing out. Check out the video of the gameplay.